I've been riding a long time, longer than I can rightly explain. West of here, I knew every trail, every fence line, every waterhole, every grave. But a man can know his own country too well. So I turned my horse east, and I kept going. Past the last ranch, past the last map, into a country older than any I'd ever crossed, with stories nobody back home ever heard. This is the first one. The Great Wall you're picturing right now, the gray stone, the watchtowers, the brick ridge running over the mountains. Almost none of it existed until the 1500s. Now, I've ridden past a lot of walls in my time. Ranch fences, garrison stockades, border stones. But the first time I came up on this one, the original, I laughed out loud. A bank of packed dirt, waist-high in places. My horse could have stepped over it without breaking stride, which raises an obvious question. If it couldn't stop a man on foot, what in God's name was it for? Why would anyone drag that much earth across 1,000 miles of frontier to build something you could just step over? Then I watched what it did to 10,000 riders, and I stopped laughing. The answer has almost nothing to do with walls. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. To get there, we have to go back. Way back to the moment the whole thing started. Thousands of years ago, everyone living on the Central Plains survived the same way. Hunting, gathering, following the food wherever it went. Always moving, never settling, never able to put down roots. Then, more than 7,000 years ago, something shifted. Something that would shape the next several thousand years of history. Farming took hold in the Yellow River Valley, and it spread like a spark catching in the dark. Farming could feed more mouths than ever before, and just as important, it could store food. Grain in a jar will keep through the lean months when nothing grows and a hunter goes hungry. That was something hunting and gathering could never do. And the difference in scale was staggering. One farming family could live off about 5 acres of land. One nomad family, herding animals across open grass, they'd need something on the order of 1,000 times more. I've worked both kinds of country. Believe me, that gap is the whole story in miniature, because that surplus didn't just feed people, it armed them. More food meant more people. More people meant weapons, walls, organized defense. For the first time, farmers didn't have to run. They could stand their ground and hold it. And the hunters who'd once roamed freely couldn't compete with that. Not against those numbers, not against that kind of force. So agriculture won. And it kept spreading outward from the Central Plains, generation after generation, pushing toward the northern frontier until it hit a wall of its own, a natural one, the 400-millimeter rainfall line. Beyond it, there simply isn't enough rain to farm. I've ridden out past that line. You can feel it under the hooves. The ground goes from field to range in half a day's ride. Crops fail out there, no matter how hard anyone tries. And along that invisible boundary, 2 completely different worlds took shape. Farmers on one side, nomads on the other. On one side, settlements grew richer, denser, more organized every year. On the other, life was a daily fight against the weather, the land, the animals, just to get by. The 2 sides traded. Pots and iron for cattle and wool. It helped, but it was never enough. So when disaster hit the steppe, a brutal winter, a long drought, a herd dying off overnight, the nomads had exactly one option left. Ride south and raid, not out of cruelty, out of survival. When the land turns on you, you go where the grain is. I've seen that logic play out before. On another frontier, half a world away. And here's where most explanations stop. That they raided, so a wall was built. But that skips the real question, because if you strip away the politics, the geography, all of it, this entire 1,000-year conflict came down to a single animal: horses. Now, that's a subject I know something about. I've spent my whole life in a saddle, and I'll tell you what every cavalryman from Texas to the steppe learned the hard way. A man on a good horse against a man on foot, that's not a fight, that's a hunt. Farming societies didn't keep horses, and there was a good reason. A horse is expensive, demanding, eats constantly, needs trained hands, special care and grass, endless open grass. For a farmer working 5 acres, that's not an asset, that's a money pit. But for the nomads, the horse was everything. The Chinese sources are blunt about it. Sima Qian, the grand historian, writing more than 2,000 years ago, put it plainly. Once the young boys can ride sheep, they draw their bows to shoot birds and rodents. As they grow, they hunt foxes and hares, and every man strong enough to bend a bow rides as an armored warrior, every grown man a mounted soldier. A whole nation raised in the saddle from the time they could walk. To the farming states, that wasn't a curiosity. It was a military problem they had no answer for. The fastest, deadliest fighters on Earth were the ones on horseback. Speed was their weapon, mobility was their edge. The one thing the farmers couldn't match. So how do you defend a frontier that long against an enemy that fast without bankrupting yourself doing it? You don't build a fence around a city. You build something stranger, a barrier laid across the exact routes the raiders had to use. Watchtowers down its length, relay stations to pass warnings, signal by signal, from one end of the line to the other. Where I come from, we had signal fires on the ridge lines too. Same idea. This was a radar network, a way to see trouble coming and react in time. Built thousands of years before anyone said the word radar, and the earliest versions were humble. Flat ground, rammed earth, packed down layer by layer. I watched the crews work, wooden frames, baskets of dirt, and the same pounding rhythm from sunup to sundown. Nothing grand, just what was on hand. The wall was never built to stop people. It couldn't, and it wasn't trying to. A determined raider could climb over it, given time. That was never the point. The point was the horses. Take away a raider's horse and you take away his speed. And speed was the entire advantage. A man who rode to the wall climbs over it on foot. Now he's slow. Now he's carrying what he can hold. Now his escape is a wall away from him, and the alarm fires are already lit. The wall slowed them down. It bought the defenders time to see the attack coming and time to answer it. And it funneled riders into the few narrow gaps, the exact spots where the garrison stood waiting. So this was never simple defense. It was something cleverer. It was a force multiplier. A small army with the wall behind it could do the work of a far larger one and hold an enormous frontier without spending a fortune. And then the wall did something nobody designed it to do. Stretch by stretch, the separate walls began to link up into something far bigger than any single barrier. Mountains became highways for foot soldiers who could move along the line to wherever they were needed. The towers watched the horizon. If one section was breached, the next could answer almost instantly. There was always another line behind the first. But that's not the surprising part. The surprising part is what the wall did to the people on the other side of it. Raiding had become dangerous work. A single small tribe couldn't risk it alone anymore. The odds were wrong. Too much to lose. So they did the one thing nomads almost never do. They banded together. Bigger and bigger confederations, just to survive against the system the wall had created. And the timing is no coincidence. By the Warring States period, the Great Walls were going up, built by Qin, by Zhao, by Yan. And at that very same moment, out on the steppe, the scattered tribes were doing the opposite of falling apart. They were merging into powers like the Xiongnu. Later, a leader named Modu united the steppe entirely. That, too, was a reaction to the pressure the wall kept applying decade after decade. The wall, in a strange way, built its own enemy. But the wall carried one more weapon. And this one wasn't military at all. It was economic, and in the long run, maybe just as powerful. With the wall in place, trade with the steppe had to pass through controlled gates. Every exchange went through a channel the state could watch, count, and tax. Nothing moved freely, and the most valuable good of all, horses, could only be sold to the government itself. That wasn't an accident of geography. It was policy written into Han law. Stallions could be sold across the border. Mares, never. Any rancher can tell you why. You don't hand your enemy a breeding herd. You control the horses, and you control the war. So the nomads lost their free trade. The open exchange they'd relied on was gone, and that loss pushed them in the very same direction, towards centralizing, organizing, becoming one power instead of many, just to cope with the squeeze. Everything the wall did pointed the same way. It kept forcing a scattered mobile people to become a single, organized one. So step back. After all of it, what did all that dirt actually buy? I'll tell you what I saw. I saw a frontier held without an army big enough to bankrupt a kingdom. I saw the fastest cavalry on earth made slow. Saw trade choked down to a handful of gates a government could count and tax. And I saw something stranger than all of it. I saw scattered tribes forced to become a nation just to survive the thing that was built to keep them out. That's why the Great Wall is so much more than bricks and mortar. It was never just a structure on a map. It was a strategy. One that played out, slow and patient over centuries. Without it, the North stays what it always was. Dozens of independent tribes raiding at will, with nobody able to stop them for long. With it, the Central Plains could defend, consolidate, and in time, turn the tables. In trade. And in war, that's the real story of the wall. Not the gray Ming brick you picture today, but the strategy underneath it, a marvel of patience, of cunning, and of dirt, a pile of earth you could once have stepped right over. I know, I almost did.